I feel like the people who are making the play are a little blip in the ocean of this institution, and the institution has its own needs to keep itself afloat. And so that's been a big just transition moment for me of not only thinking about how the show itself can be sustainable, but how the art can help the institution itself.
Welcome, friends. I'm Kristen Martin, and this is Torches. Today we have the awe-inspiring Heather Christian. Heather is an award-winning composer-performer making music-centered shows and rituals. She was most recently recognized with the MacArthur Fellowship. I'm really excited to speak with her today. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
So well-deserved and
I
such a thrill.
appreciate it. Yeah, I'm not sure I've gotten over the shock of it yet. I think that's probably a long time coming, but thank you.
Yeah. So how did you come to be in downtown performance?
Well, I went to ETW. I attended ETW at NYU. And the majority of the faculty at ETW came from downtown theater. A lot of them came from the Joseph Chaikin Company. We're doing very physical theater. We're doing Grotowski, doing Roy Hart vocal technique. So these were all like beasts of the downtown American theater in the 60s and 70s. So that was sort of the beginning. And then when I left NYU, my first jobs sort of came from that pool of professors. My first professional job was with Annie B. and Big Dance Theater. And then I joined a dance company with Dan Safer called Witness Relocation.
Of course. I saw you in those early shows.
Yeah. And so I sort of got entrenched in that world. And through that work, Ellen Stewart saw me in one of Annie B's shows called The Other Here, and came up to me afterwards and goes, "You've got shows in you. I think you've got shows in you." And I was like, "I don't know what that means." And she was like, "I think you're a writer." So she gave me 6 weeks in the cabaret space with Mama.
Oh my God.
She gave me 4 months to figure something out. And that was sort of the beginning of it all.
That is amazing. I never
Yeah.
knew that story.
Handpicked by Ellen
Ellen
Stewart. La Mama herself.
What was that first piece that you made?
It's called North. You know, I didn't know what I was doing. I was, I had just started to really write music in earnest. So I knew what I was excited about was doing a nonlinear piece that was based around a song cycle where I was taking Baroque pieces of music, largely out of Bach's Preludium, or the Well-Tempered Clavier, and cross-pollinating them with pop songs from the 80s, as well as some original pieces.
Oh, fun.
And had like a small ensemble. I guess you could call it a dance theater piece because there was quite a lot of movement and the logic sort of functioned like that. Tepid reviews, except for there was one review that will live with me forever, which was by, Alice. Oh gosh, I don't remember who it was by. Anyway, the title of the review was North Goes South. And I took that with me and was like, okay, so I need to take some time and learn how to do this better. But, you know.
Well, speaking of the South,
Yeah.
how did growing up in church come into your art making?
I grew up in a small town, Natchez, Mississippi. And we had a community theater, but it wasn't really, you could audition for the shows, but nobody's going to give you a part because like, most of those parts are reserved for people who have been doing that for 40 years. That was the only really theatrical anything that was happening in Natchez. And I had this theater bug for as long as I can remember. I don't know where it came from. I mean, I guess it came from my mom's side of the family. My grandpa and his brother and sisters were part of a vaudeville acting troupe that traveled around. My grandma was a singer and my mom was a dancer. So they were all sort of, you know, and they're very dramatic, high volume people. So I think that's kind of where it came from. But there wasn't a whole lot of opportunities for one to perform. I was singing in the children's choir when I was 6 or 7. And I was told that I was too loud and that my voice wasn't pretty and that I should just mouth the words in the back, which broke my heart.
Yeah.
And our music director of or the music teacher in our elementary school heard about it, and his name is Alvin Shelby, and he ran the Holy Family Gospel Choir at a different church, and he was like, "You can sing loud in my choir. You want to sing loud in my choir?" So I started singing with Alvin, and then pretty soon the lead cantor at my mom's church, the Basilica, left town, and nobody wanted to cantor, and so they asked me when I was 11 if I would want to do it.
Wow.
So they built me a little step stool. So I started cantoring and then ultimately music directing at the church at a really young age. And as a result, I'm backstage, like I'm in the sacristy with the priest before Mass begins, and you sort of start to see, like, this is theater. This is an event. There's costumes. He's changing into it.
Yeah.
There are these, like, little magic moments where, like, the altar boy will ring the chimes, when we're consecrating the Eucharist. Like, there's all of these, it's not as like aggressively theatrical or manipulative, but there is a script that we're following, and there is, and it became clear that my job was to pick pieces of music that helped people get into this right headset of, I'm gonna help myself today. I'm gonna teach myself something. I'm gonna think about something, and that's something that has stayed through me. Because I think that was my first theatrical experience, and because there's a certain kind of, it's not selflessness, but it is like it feels serviceable, like to do that instead of just stand on a stage and say, "Look at me," instead to say, "Just do your own thing and let me try to help by doing this other thing." So I think that's kind of where it started.
And how did that, it seems like that was a natural flow to think about how to blend the secular and the spiritual.
Yeah, certainly. And weirdly, like, that came around later. This obsession with trying to blend the sacred and the spiritual didn't come until I was, like, working for 10 years. I find the more that I feel free as a writer, the more naturally myself I feel within the work. And so I do feel like that's the thing that I'm really fixated on, not just because it's my own, like, personal obsession with these incredibly poetic ancient texts that I find fascinating, but because I think that, like, fundamentalism is like a scourge that we are dealing with at every level, personally, politically, socioeconomically. Like, spirituality and religion is something that seeps into everything, whether or not you choose to participate.
Right.
So that's sort of where I feel like I have insight, because I have compulsions towards it.
Yeah. You once said that you hope your work can be a space for inquiry, contemplation, and beauty. So how do you set about trying to create that?
Mostly I'm trying to get out of the way of clarity. Like I'm trying to get out of the way of like 5 different people coming and seeing the show and seeing the same show. I'm trying to find a way that I can write like a Rorschach, so that different people can come in with their different experiences and their different troubles or their different, joys, and see the show that makes them think about something specific in their lives a little deeper. I call a heart and it will fill us both, and we will open. I will fill this cup, I call a heart. So in order to do that, you kind kind of have to figure out how to hit these guideposts of not doing everything that's unrelated and unclear, otherwise you're going to lose people and alienate them, but not give them such specific information that the theater piece demands that it be seen in like one narrative way.
Is that why, there was one part of Torche, and there are parts of Oratorio that are in Latin instead of in English?
Yes.
That you're trying to give them the mental association space,
Yes.
as opposed to.
Well, for most people, because most people don't speak Latin.
Right.
But
there are some who do, yes.
yeah, I'm trying to scale the work for people who want to engage with it at all levels. So that just means that I know that there are people out there who are liturgical scholars that are, that are scientists and science nerds. I don't have all of the information. I am researching compulsively and trying to at least pad the pieces with, if I'm going to do something obscure, something that's like where the clarity is cut in that way, by obscuring it with a different language, then I at least want to make sure that the shield holds water too. But yeah, I think it's a way to get people out of their heads. Music is already like an abstract art form, so it's when I put things in syllabic tones, or when I put them in different languages, it's a way to say, like, you don't need to use your logic brain for this.
Right. Yeah, and Torche, you took us in so many different directions emotionally with the musical journey. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So because I'm not using traditional linear narrative, I feel like you gotta have a skeleton to hang an experience on. So I'm trying to write what I lovingly refer to as like these emotional EKGs. And usually I'm finding the model and the blueprint for those inside form, like inside either ancient forms or forms that I've just become privy to, that I've become recently obsessed with. Specifically in Tertia, because the breviary masses have a very specific form, I then kind of I go back to the original texts and I try to figure out what each beat is trying to do emotionally. And there is a journey. There's a roller coaster in itself, and because it's in such stilted language, after thousands of years of translation and retranslation, I feel like that's kind of there's a damper on it, on understanding the intensity of the feeling. The Psalms don't read as violent anymore. The imprecatory Psalms don't read as violent anymore these days than I'm sure that they read, 5,000 years ago. So I'm trying to either take those things and dial the volume way up on those original feelings so that it can follow that EKG. Or if I completely disagree with that's where we're supposed to be going, I at least try to identify the action and find my own sacred text from a living mystic, or a mystic that has not been called as such in history, to give us some information that might be more, that might lead us to a more useful place.
Be the one and the last one and the honored one. Be the scorned one and a whore and a holy one. Be the white and be the virgin, be the barren one. Be the silence and be the silence, be untenable return. Be utterance, be the extraordinary semolina, be persistent.
Could you share a moment of pure joy in your art making?
Yeah. Actually, it's in Tertia.
Oh, great.
So we made Tertia. Tertia is the mass that's supposed to happen at 9 a.m. But because we operate by theater rules, we can't tech it at 9 a.m. But we had a lot of 7 p.m. shows. So the majority of the shows were at 7 p.m. or at 3 p.m. where shows are supposed to take place. And here in Prototype, we're amazing enough to let us do a handful of 9 a.m. shows. However, we had absolutely no idea what the light was going to be like. We were in Irondale, and we had opened all of the windows. All of the blacks that were over the windows, we exposed because we wanted the real sunlight to come in. But we didn't know what the light was going to do. So our first 9 a.m. show, we show up, and about 15 minutes in, the sun as it was rising, because this was this is the dead of winter. The sun, as it was rising, came and shone directly into one of the windows of Irondale and threw this spotlight onto the stage that felt supernatural. I mean, just felt. And I looked around to all of the incredible women that were performing with me, close to 40.
Yes, we had 36, as I well know. And some days we had 37 or 38. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
And they were just as much in awe as I was. And there was this like rabid, childlike joy that like spread across the company. Like, what's happening? This is amazing. What is happening? And it sort of followed me around the stage for a while. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Couldn't have planned for that.
Yeah, there was a beam that went directly on you where you were, and it was like, God knows that Heather is making this moment.
I mean, the thing is when I'm making these breviary masses, I was like, I'm either doing something very right or I'm doing something extremely sacrilegious. And like, I'm holding that in me every time I make one. And that was a moment where I was like, it's probably not that sacrilegious. I'm just going to take this as confirmation.
Exploration and risk are a big part of your work.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you manage the risk or how you embrace the risk when you're creating?
Yeah, I mean, I just gotta say, like, fear is a constant, and I now know from doing it enough times that if I'm really scared of something, if I'm really scared of a moment, if I've had an idea that I was like, well, that's too far, I don't know that anybody's gonna let me do that. That usually there's heat there. Usually there's something in that idea that if we can crack it, it's going to work. It doesn't always work. That's not 100. It's not a 10 for 10 situation. Like the blackout in Animal Wisdom.
Oh, that's such a great moment.
This was one of those things where it's like we didn't know that was going to work until we got an audience in front of it. Forever keep them. Forever sleep there. But in order to get an audience in front of it, you have to train, because you can't just play music for 27 minutes in the dark without training. So there's a whole lot of prep work and a whole lot of effort and labor that goes into seeing if this experiment is going to work. And until the last possible moment, literally everyone was like, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. This is not going to work. And I just had this feeling. I was just like, it's the right thing. I need to know. And
it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That was really a transcendent moment.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Oof.
I can't wait to see it again this spring.
Yeah. We can't do a true blackout because,
Rules. And what about failure?
Failure is also a constant. But I feel like failure is one of those things that, like, it's like success. Like, where do you stop? Like, where do you put the period at the end of the sentence? Mm-hmm. Because I learned so much. Like, north goes south. Yes. I mean, like, do I think that the show was a failure? No. Am I embarrassed that I made it? Yeah. It's like, but I needed to do that in order to learn, how to even begin to make my own work. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, like, things that I've tried that have been really bad ideas. I've failed in a lot of ways to be a successful leader, but every time that happens, I feel like it's a reminder that we are constantly growing and the landscape is constantly shifting. So I try not to think about it as failure as much as like, that's an ouch.
And it's a lesson.
It's leading me somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's surprising to me to hear you say that about failing in a room, because the room for Torche was such an incredibly warm and welcoming and embracing room. And I think everyone felt like heard and seen.
Yeah.
So I think you managed to create a space that is inclusive of all these different voices.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what makes a truly generative and rich collaboration for you?
I think it's about getting really clear about what things you want the ultimate say-so about, and just respecting that you have those feelings. And then which things you feel great about delegating to others, so that you can run at those with the fullness of yourself. I am kind of, if it doesn't look like it, but I'm a control freak. And it's taken me years to sort of figure out which things I really had feelings about, that I wanted to control myself. And taking leadership of those things and making it very clear that I was going to be the one who was holding those things.
Right.
And which things would be more fun if other people ran with them. And of course, like, I have opinions and idea, inside of those things, but ultimately, that spirit of play is what keeps the work alive. By the time the thing comes off the page and we're going into production, I'm sick of it. So there is a certain degree of like relief when it gets into another body,
Right.
when you have another conversation with someone who's not yourself about the work. It
Right.
deepens it in a way that I don't find scary at all. I find it exciting.
Well, I really did see you give authority and leadership with others, share it with others in the space. I saw Mona and Jacqueline as
Yeah.
music directors really leading the process
Yes.
so that you could be free to focus on other aspects of what was
Yes.
going on in Keenan's beautiful work
Yes.
with the chorus and with the
Yeah.
band. That they felt fully empowered, and there were wonderful conversations and
Yeah.
partnerships there.
Yeah.
And I think everyone brought their strongest selves and work into that project.
That's the hope. But I
Yeah.
mean, you saw that process, and that was after 10 years of some unsuccessful collaborations and like learning lessons with
Right.
people about how to be. It's actually more about advocating for what you know that you need as a person.
Right, yeah.
So that, and not saying yes and acquiescing to everyone all of the time, which is what I was doing earlier. And then you get into a situation where, you're emotionally or
You haven't been truthful
compromised.
to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does collaborating with the same people over time enrich your work?
Oh, right. We're all growing together. We're all growing together. I try to do half and half. I try to do half and half of. At least half and half, in favor of people I haven't worked with before. But these relationships that I'm making with specifically designers and performers. The reason that we come back to them is because they understand something essential about my work in the macro.
Yeah.
And they have a similar desire in themselves personally. So it feels like we're looking at the same thing, and it feels like we're trying for the same outcome.
Yeah.
We have the same value system. It's really important, I think, to find people who are moving forward with the same wishes for what a room feels like. So a lot of the people that are repeat customers are people who I'm like, I know that this is a room that feels holistically good
Yes.
and safe when I'm with you. I don't have to go back to the drawing board and explain that we are reinventing process inside of the confines of like the pipeline of how work is normally made. And it does take some people who've like sailed that ship before in
Yeah.
order to like do it well. And they're also like ingenious and like, learning how to do it in different ways too. So I think we grow together, and we also gas each other up, and we change.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you balance experimentation with craft?
I would argue that my experimentation is in what I consider craft. I feel like I have to reinvent a process for myself with every new show that I tackle, which is less about some philosophical decision that I've made that it needs to be made in a different way every time, and more that I, as soon as I get comfy in terms of how I'm doing something, how I'm writing something, how I'm learning something, when I start to feel like I'm good at it, then I feel like that sense of discovery and that sense of feeling like I'm 9 years old, making something that nobody cares about goes away. And I write from a place of primarily like joy, and like it's my composer entity is intuitive, so I'm constantly having to give her games to play. So all of my, for the majority of like my experimentation is in like, how do I do this one? I don't know. I've done it this way, this way, this way, this way. Maybe I'll try doing something that way.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I read that you once said you're a cynic, and I was really surprised because there's such a wonder and beauty in your work. So can you explain that to me?
Yeah, I should qualify that. In that I'm a hard sell. You know, I am doubtful of the reality that is spoon-fed to me, whether that be by an organized religion, by a smartphone, by a piece of art telling me what I should feel when I should feel it. I'm a hard sell. So I feel like I'm trying to make things where I can almost convince myself that it's working. And if I can almost convince myself that it's authentic and that it's true and that it is a version of reality that we are experiencing together, then I think, you know, we've got it, there's good odds that it will read as something that's genuine for other people, because, you know, I've got my nose up at everything.
And I am emptying the cup of myself. I am undefended. I live undefended. The only shield I've got now is my smile, but I don't give that to myself.
I'm sort of allergic to artifice, which is odd to be in the theater with that proclivity. I always want something real to be happening.
Does your identity as a white woman and or your lived experience affect or shape your aesthetic?
I'll make that a tiny more specific in that I think my experience as a white Southern woman certainly does. In that in the ways that I think it does for most of us, right? Like the bed from which you have sprung sort of tells you what your language is to a certain degree. I do feel like my experience growing up in the American South. Sometimes I tell people like my experience growing up in America, because sometimes I don't feel like New York is America in the way that I experienced it back home. Has maybe given me more insight into actually what the tension in the big questions we're trying to ask is. I grew up with a lot of people who I do not agree with, who I'm very different from. And they are kind people with the best of intentions, and I don't want to lecture them, and I still think I'm right, and that's like that's a complexity that we kind of have to hold. And so I feel like a lot of my work is trying to hold a lot of perspectives in their complexity, and not preaching, but trying to offer in a language that can hold lots of sensibilities and lots of ideologies.
Yeah, I really feel that. We've talked about that. I'm also from Birmingham, Alabama, so I know some of what you're talking about from my family experiences there. Yeah.
You can't just write them off, you know? Yeah.
No, there's goodness, there's care, there's kindness, there's a lot of complexity.
There's beauty there, and tenacity. I find like that's something that I really took from the South, is like there's no arts funding in Mississippi. Like we had to make work out of what we could get. Like I got this sort of like, I'm gonna make it with a roll of duct tape and insomnia. That's what I'm gonna do.
Right.
And I feel like that's a pretty Southern trait that I've taken with me.
Yeah, there is a sort of craft, handmade, DIY quality to your work.
Yes.
How has that changed with access to resources becoming available?
I don't. I mean, it's now it's a choice, right?
Yes.
When it needs to be a choice, it is a choice. I'm still like fervently a believer that like most things it should be clear that it was made by people. And
Yeah.
if we're gonna like make an authentic experience, whatever that means, then it should be clear that it's a piece of theater, that we're not trying to like perform reality for you. There's no like suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
So objects can be poetic and can be artworks in themselves on stage, and you know that turns me on. I feel like the resources. It's funny because everybody's making a show in with less money than it takes.
Right.
Like,
At whatever level you mean.
at whatever level.
Yes.
Money is always a thing where we're like, we can't. I've never been in a space where I've just been told like, dream as big as you want. My access to resources has meant that my ensembles can be bigger. I do feel like if we have more money, we need to spend it on the people and not the stuff.
Yeah.
That's just the way that I feel about it. So my access to resources has been like, okay, the cast is going to be larger. I can actually have my chorus of 25, or I can actually have this many musicians in the orchestra. That's the first place I want to spend it. And inevitably, like, it's always less than what we wanted from the outset.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I remember when we started Torche, we did not think it was quite such a large piece, but
No.
we got there.
We did.
We made it
got
happen.
there. Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. And only
It was-
because people really believed in it and
Yeah.
wanted to make it happen. It's like those are the things, is like the creative producing has to come from a place of love and care.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I appreciated so much about your stewardship specifically at here, is you were really in the trenches with me. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Well, it was one of the joys of my career, that show.
Oh,
It was
thank
just
you.
such a beautiful experience from tip to toe.
Thank you.
How have institutions supported or not supported your work?
So supported, I feel the most supported by institutions who like you are like this, are very clear about what the situation is. Like, this is the situation. These are the parameters that we're working inside. I see that this is the thing. I understand what you do.
Right.
Let's have a creative collaboration in terms of like how to make the thing. And the truth is that a parameter, it can be what defines the work, and
Right.
and like the situation out of which the defining choice of the work can be made. And I truly believe that, like, if all options were available, then you know we would be frozen in indecision.
That's true.
I feel, but I do like to know the whole lay of the land, and be brought into conversations about how we're spending the money, because I want to spend it on the people, or because I have feelings about, how much should happen, how much we should be spending on marketing, or whatever. I think there's creative solutions to every budget item, and I think that institutions that have also taught me that it's okay for me to have feelings about that stuff.
Yes.
Which is great. The only times that I've felt unsupported is when I have been brought in by an institution who had heard something about me but didn't truly understand the nature of my work. Sometimes I'm brought into rooms and, asked to make a two-hander, or I'm, brought into rooms and asked to do something that's very, very much not what I'm interested in. But what if you tried? And that kind of, at this stage in my life, gets on my nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like I'm making a very clear decision about what I want to spend the duration of my life asking and trying. And so those conversations turn awkward, and then I just mostly start to feel like I don't belong.
Right.
And those are conversations that have only started to happen recently as my work has been moving into more commercial spaces. But again, I feel like I'm now on this precipice of having failed in a lot of those conversations, of learning from that and figuring out where to push and where to compromise, and how I want to do it in that sphere.
maybe you've just answered it, but if
Yeah.
there's one thing that you could change about the way institutions operate, what
Yeah.
would that be?
There's a little bit of that. I want to say something maybe a little controversial, which is that I feel like at this current day and age, that institutions are a little bit too big. That I feel overwhelmed when I go through the doors of an institution sometimes these days, and I'm met with 75 or 80 people, lovely people who
Right.
are so dedicated. But I feel like the people who are making the play are a little blip in the ocean of this institution, and the institution has its own needs to keep itself afloat. And so that's been a big just transition moment for me of not only thinking about how the show itself can be sustainable, but how the art can help the institution itself stay afloat and remain sustainable. And that's a lot of like business thinking that I did not realize I had to incorporate into my life.
Yeah.
Which I'm learning to do, but I do feel like we're in a moment in time in the theater where we maybe just need to start thinking about like downsizing that a little bit and being a little bit scrappier.
Yeah. We're only the second generation of nonprofit theater that's in
Yeah.
operation right now. So it's not like this model has been tested and is true.
Right.
This model has grown up in a very short amount of time, and
Right.
it is not the be all and the end all. And there are other
You're so
ways
right.
for us to do this,
Yes.
because clearly the way we're doing it is not working.
It's not sustainable. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The market is doing something weird too, so it's we're just in this moment. And it breaks my heart because I have these feelings, and I know what that means is that, it means I'm advocating that people don't have jobs, but I don't see any other way.
Do you just spoke about sustainability. Are there thoughts that you have that would be wise for us in order to live more sustainably?
I'm not wise.
to survive and thrive and in a sustainable way as humans and as artists.
Yes, I mean, I feel like, and I should take my own advice. So I, do as I say, not as I do. What does that say? This is something that I'm trying, which is I feel like I sort of came about at the beginning of hustle culture, and I know that it's always been a hustle to like stay in the theater.
Yeah.
But it's gotten kind of out of control with Instagram and self-promotion and just the way that technology has interacted with marketing and the way that the entertainment industry and the arts industry, like the entertainment industry has sort of subsumed a lot of the arts communities. So hustle culture has become this thing that's gone off the rails. And I truly believe that, like, as an artist primarily, I can only speak as an artist because I am one. But like,
Right.
In order to make work about lived experience, in order to make work about like human universal truths and big questions, you need to live your life. And we're not really given time for that, or we're sort of guilted into thinking that if we're not productive all of the time, that we're lazy. If we're not pushing the next project forward, if we're not, having a million Zoom calls, if we're not whatever, and you just can't create new work without silence.
Yeah.
So I think that's my hope for us, is that we can all figure out how to be bored again, and see what comes out of that. Like, is that even possible anymore?
Right. Well, some of what you talked about just now in terms of the tech culture and the rushing and the hustle feels very antithetical to the spirit of downtown experimentation and community.
Yep.
Do you still see it present in our city?
In bits and bobs. I see a show at here and I see it. I see a show at the Bushwick Star and I see it. Or I go to a residency, like Space on Ryder Farm. I feel like that was very much, places that are hell-bent on making community a big part of what they do. That's still happening. And I think everyone is trying to a certain extent, but this scrappy brave, humiliating place of, I don't know, is like where the most exciting stuff comes from. And I just don't see how it's possible for anyone coming up now to do that. Like,
Right.
you know, I don't know where those opportunities, mine came from Ellen Stewart, just like giving me a shot. I don't know what happens these days.
Right.
So I hope that there are places. Our artistic residencies of mid-process work are disappearing. You know, I feel like kids come out of school now and they're like, I need to go to work immediately.
Right. Because they have debt and how the cost of living is so high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the spirit's there, but I don't think we've figured out a way to see its, you know, effects in a big way.
Yeah, and I think about something like we first worked together on Lily's Revenge with Taylor, and there were so many people on that project that have continued to make work separately and together. So there was like a sense of community amongst the performers, the designers.
Yes.
Machine Dazzle was on that, Paul and Ellen from Talking Band.
Yes.
You, Tigger.
Yeah.
You know, just so many, Faye Driscoll,
Yeah.
Rachel Chafkin.
Bianca Lee.
Yes,
Like-
yeah, just incredible range of artists that are continuing to make work, and I feel like I'm wanting to see more of those budding collaborations that
Yeah.
are fostering a rich fabric of a community that can influence. Because I think that influence was really impactful on
Yes.
everybody's art making.
Agreed. Absolutely
Yeah.
agreed. Yeah. There's, I mean, so many of, you know, I've learned so much from the people who were just like, come do a show with me. Like, the whole reason why I feel like I have permission to do something strange or to try and break something is because of Taylor, because of Annie B, because of, you know, because of the Talking Band, because of the generations and generations of artists before me who just didn't show that they, whether or not they did, that they feared it. And so it sort of felt like, oh, why not?
How do you define success now, and has that definition changed?
Yeah, that changes. Yeah. I think it changes seasonally.
That's healthy.
Yeah. I think I remember there being a certain point where I was like, if I can quit my day job, I'll feel successful. I quit my day job 10 years ago. I think at another point I was like, I will feel successful when I know that that the next show will always be produced somewhere. And now I've got like, right now I'm working on like 7 pieces
Right.
at various places. So that's fine. I think now my idea of success is if I can get to the place where I truly believe that if I take like a year and think about something else or think about something new, that I can come back. That there would still be a spot for me somewhere to say something.
Yeah.
If I got sick, or if I decided to have a baby, or if I, you know, because that's still after, gosh, how long has it been? After 26 years trying to do this, it's drilled into you.
Yeah.
Like, you close a show, somebody's going to ask you what's next tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's, you better have something on the stove. So yeah, I feel like if I'm ever able to like rest in that knowledge, if that ever happens, then I'll feel successful.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about legacy? What do you want to leave behind for the next generation? It's early for you. You got a lot more to make,
Yeah.
but what do you think you want to leave behind for the next generation of artists and audiences and people?
I think 2 things, like a willingness to work with people who didn't go to art school, like a willingness to work with like actual like non-arts
Humans?
people. Yeah. Humans who are not trying to, you know, do art for a living. there's something to be like learned and enjoyed from the side of humanity that we don't engage with on a daily basis as artists in our own little insular communities where we're sometimes only talking to each other.
Yeah.
And also like I would like to just obliterate genre, right? Like I think it's so deeply unhelpful to be like, this is a play, this is an opera, this is a thing, this is a that. I would like to leave a world wherein the more skloogey nature of what a piece's identity can be is something that is more readily accepted, supported, talked about, critiqued.
After you take that year for yourself, if you give yourself that gift, do you have thoughts about how you see your art evolving? What are the next?
It's interesting. I think I'm gonna keep keep making bigger ensembles. So just like I feel like that's a pretty clear trajectory. The more voices that I am allowed to have, the more immersive and like larger the hammer that I can dream. So I'm excited about that. I'm now seeing that I have I'm like looking in my little box of like which of these hobbies and talents that I'm interested in can I be in bigger conversation with inside of the work. I'm right now working on an opera that is housed inside of a straight play, and I've never written dialogue before, and I am having a hell of a good time.
Awesome.
Like teaching myself how I would write dialogue. So I feel like that's probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to learn how to write dialogue, and then I'm going to like, oh, I want to maybe publish a book of poems, or maybe I want to learn how to like build my own set, or, you know, like something that I can truly feel. I want to continually feel like an idiot in one regard, you know? It sort of feels like that keeps me
You're pushing your
alive.
creative edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that there is I am a person who works collaboratively. I'm seeing the world stand on this precipice in the theater industry of, do we give credit to actors who we've workshopped the piece with for 8 years? Do we give credit to like an instrumentalist who has made an orchestration? Where do we share credit? And there's, the longer that I am trying to get used to the deep end, the more I'm realizing that there is this like vice grip on credit and on royalty. And I'm determined to shake it out. Like there are precedents for royalty sharing and for credit sharing, and I just think those conversations sort of stopped with the pandemic, and just want to shine a little light on it, that like we should be engaging in those conversations again, because everybody deserves mailbox money. Like our lifespan as performers is dependent on our bodies, and so it's, you know, we're like NFL players. We put our bodies through a lot, and you know, there's only so long we have with them. Hopefully it's a long time, but you know, we need to be thinking about where we're spending our energy, and praying that that's a thing that's going to take care of you in the long run, not just in the relationships that you're making in those scenarios, but also the work should feel like it's taking care of the artists that are put in the room with it, and I feel pretty passionately about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We should feel passionately about that.
Yeah.
Because the creators are at the center. We're all at the center of it. The work doesn't exist without these creative spirits inhabiting and forging it.
Yeah. And I think it's a symptom of, you know, like the commercialism and capitalism taking over the art sector and like infesting itself in itsy bitsy little ways that everybody feels a scarcity in this country. And I just think that that's a choice. We can make the choice not to let that get to us into such a way that we're hoarding.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this.
Yep, so happy to.
And thanks to Hell Realm for hosting us and to you for joining. And we hope you'll come back to more of Torches.